Hello, welcome everybody. It's Tuesdays at 2, a couple weeks late, but we're here and we're glad you came. All right, so how are we doing, Brenda? Do we have, it's okay to get started now? Okay, we're gonna get started. I'm excited. Okay, so you've probably seen in the last two or three newsletters this great top that I'm going to show you about today. And I made this from my sloper. And it's a real quick and easy make, and it's really cute. And we've got lots of nice large print fabrics that'll make up in as well. So I want to get to that before too long, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about what was in the newsletter this week. And I put it in there specifically because I'm getting a tremendous amount of questions. So I understand that there's a big buzz about slopers right now, and I know I'm the culprit, but then along comes other people, other teachers, and they say, "Oh, everybody's interested in slopers. Well, I'll teach a sloper class." Now they've never made a sloper, they've never used a sloper, but they know people will come to a class to learn about slopers. And I've got a lot of those questions because I've got people that say, "Well, now I have a sloper, but I don't know how to use it. I took a class and I did all the work, but now it's just sitting here. I don't know what to do with it." Well, shame on that person for not explaining to you how to use it because it is the best fitting tool, bar none, because it is an exact map of your body. So let me just briefly explain what I was trying to talk about in the newsletter, which is the word sloper block comes from the design world. So whenever anyone's designing a garment, they start with a sloper. So if you think about somebody like Eileen Fisher or Donna Karen or a host of others, they have a certain silhouette that fits their aesthetic. And I can tell you, they have a host of slopers that they don't come and get a piece of paper and draw out a new pattern every time. They start with the basic sloper to create their design. So let's talk about what a sloper is. A sloper is not a blouse or shirt pattern if we're talking about a bodice sloper. It is merely fronts, back, and sleeve. That's it. There's no design, there's no special neckline. Some of you are making a sloper and you're telling me, "Oh, I don't like the neckline. I don't wear that kind of neckline." We aren't going to ask you to wear your sloper. But if you get it created generically, that's the best way to do it because then you'll be able to add any design lines you want to it if you want to create your own patterns from the sloper. But you don't have to create your own patterns from a sloper. You can learn to use the sloper to put on top of a commercial pattern and understand what needs to change in that commercial pattern to make it fit your body perfectly. So if you've got one shoulder longer than the other, one higher than the other, if you've got a rounded back, if you've got one hip that's more pronounced than another, and the list goes on, and we all have those. We all have something in the area of idiosyncrasies about our body that we're not exactly thrilled about because they make fitting a little more difficult, and certainly buying ready to wear more difficult. So it can be used in both cases, but please remember, it's not a pattern. There's not supposed to be anything but a nice fit, and then we use it after that. And if you're taking classes from us here at Islander, we're going to explain it all. I'm teaching a class Thursday for the American Sewing Guild. For the people that took the sloper making class from me, now they're going to take a class on how to use their sloper that they made. But you need to make the sloper before you need to learn how to use it. It's got to be, the horse before the cart. So now the designers slopers are one size and very symmetrical. We always start out with a symmetrical pattern, which you've realized by making McCall Simplicity or whatever, the other professional pattern companies. And so, where was I going with that? So they always start out symmetrical, just like a commercial dress form. And that's what they fit. But we aren't shaped like that. None of us are that symmetrical or that straight of a back or that square of shoulders, whatever it might be. So that's why we need to make it sloper for ourselves as opposed to using the generic symmetrical hourglass figure pattern that's in the envelope. And mine are the same because that's all we can do is give you a starting point. But now, as a pattern designer, I'm here to help you learn how to use those patterns and how to not have to buy 70-11 patterns. Once you have a basic pattern for a bodice, you can make any shirt, blouse, top, even dress from that sloper with very little effort in getting it to fit you correctly. So, all right, now the other thing that pattern companies do as well as fashion designers is they grade their patterns. So once they've designed a pattern, and let's say they design it in a size 8, they send it to the grader, who is generally an electronic grader with a very sophisticated software, and they make all the sizes smaller than that and all the sizes bigger. They want to start with the middle mean range because as you grade, things do change a little bit. And you could be, if you started with a 2 and tried to grade it up to a 22, it wouldn't work. I guess that's the best way to explain it. So, anyway, that's what they do. We don't need to grade a pattern, we just need to have a sloper. Now, the people that might want to grade a pattern might be people who enjoy making and buying and making vintage patterns. Then you sometimes you're a prisoner to the fact the only thing they have is a size 6 because they only have one vintage pattern for sale on Etsy or eBay. So in that case, you might want to learn to grade, but otherwise, as home sewers, we don't need to grade. So what we do is we make not a generic sloper, we make a personal custom fit sloper. That's the difference between us and the designers. But the sloper is not the pattern, it's the beginning. It's the beginning and the starting place. Okay, now, in case there's any questions, I'll stop for a second. Okay, so you've seen me make some garments using my sloper. We did a whole series on Stop the Insanity, and we did the camp shirt conversion series, and also we created a kit for that. That is, again, we're taking a more formal long sleeve button up shirt and turning it into a camp shirt. And we can take a shirt. Here's one that I did that you might remember, where I taught how to make a convertible collar shirt. So a convertible collar shirt does not have a button placket. So I started with my sloper and I created the fold back facing that's cut right on. And I drafted the collar, which I gave you the instructions on how to do that as well. And so my long sleeve formal button up shirt now is a fun little summer camp shirt. And that's all I had to do was add that facing to the front piece, forget about the placket, and then draft that collar that looks so nice. But then I showed you how to make a kimono sleeve camp shirt. Same base, same started with the same sloper. But what I did with this one, I like the kimono sleeve so much for me in the summer because I don't want to be totally sleeveless. I need something a little bit over the shoulder, and that's what this does for me. So I created a sloper that is a kimono sleeve sloper. And that's where I started with the garment I'm going to show you today. So this is the same, started with the same pattern as all my other shirts. Everything you've seen in the shirt world that I've made or demonstrated have all come from the exact same sloper. Okay, so then after you get a sloper perfected. And that is not going to be the first time you use it. Because the first time you use it, which has happened to me, oh, I got the shoulder just a quarter of an inch longer than that felt comfortable. I kept feeling this little, so I just took a quarter inch off. Oh, now it sits much nicer. And a couple of little things like that. Once you've got those all ironed out, maybe two or three garments down the road, then you call your sloper good. Then you turn your sloper into a very nice, heavy paper that you're never going to cut out. You're only going to trace out and use it for the beginning of some of your garments. Or you put it on tag board. This is oak tag board. And this is even better when you get it because you chalk around this right on the fabric and then you can cut your garment out. You never cut around it. But now I have probably three or four bodice slopers. And so I used to keep them in one envelope, but I had to go to having an accordion uh, folder because I've got so many in here. But why should I start with my basic sloper when I know I need a kimono? I'm just going to start. I kept the kimono so I could just start with the kimono because, again, that's what I started with on the two shirts that I made for this demonstration. All right, so I hope I have everyone clear on the difference between a pattern and a sloper, the difference between a sloper a designer uses and the personal sloper that you will make for yourself. Okay, so I did want to talk just slightly about the rayon. We just bought quite a few rayons, and both of these have rayon or rayon linen blends. And they just have a really nice drape. They travel well, they don't wrinkle easily, and they don't make those hard crease wrinkles if they do, just a little wrinkly once in a while. But these are the kind of things I would take on vacation with me or travel because they'd be easy to hang the wrinkles out of if there was any. And just pop it on over a slack or a skirt or a short, and you're ready to go. You could even lengthen one of these and turn it into a dress or even longer and make a caftan out of it for a summer fun garment. Okay, so basically, I want to tell you about rayon. It's definitely machine washable. I like to use the delicate cycle myself. And then I also put them in the dryer on the delicate cycle. But they can be pressed and washed and dried by machine. When you press it, I like to consider using a pressing cloth. Sometimes when you hit certain rayons with the sole plate of a hot iron, it'll create a shine. So to either test your fabric first to make sure that's not going to happen, or just use the and we use the silk organza press cloths, and I've got like two sizes that I keep by my ironing station. And you can see they're transparent. So when you put them down, you can see exactly what you're pressing. So you could use these for appliques and all other kinds of things, but you don't miss your pressing when you use a sheer pressing cloth. And this is silk organza. We carry it. A half a yard will make you a very nice one or two pressing cloths, depending on the size that you need. Okay, we're going to use all-purpose thread. I prefer all-purpose polyester thread. I don't use a lot of all polyester fabrics, but I do use a lot of all polyester thread. And that's because polyester thread's the strong thread. It's a it's a medium weight so that you can sew most garments with it. The only thing that you don't want to sew with your all-purpose polyester thread is lawn, some of the lawns. If it's a really fine lawn, you need a lighter weight thread. That thread is for coats has often now been nicknamed paper piecing, paper piecing thread, because there's so many quilters were using it. They thought maybe the consumer would identify with it better if they named it that. But I've been using it for years, and it works beautifully on silk or lighter rayons. Um, but you want to test. And one of the things that I always tell my classes is to do a stitch sampler. Take the fabric that you cut your garment out of, a scrap, interface it, sandwich some interfacing in between two pieces of your fashion fabric. Now you can test the length of the stitching that you think looks best if you're top stitching. You can check the color of thread to make sure it blends into your fabric the way you like it. And you can test your machine if it starts to cause some tension problems. And we had that happen today, and I had to go get one because for the life of me, I can't figure out why all of a sudden my stitching wasn't doing well because I don't normally have that happen with my uh, light industrial. But what had happened somehow is the thread had popped out of the bobbin case. It was still on, the bobbin was still working and thread was coming out, but it wasn't through the tension. And yeah, that was a little frustrating because we couldn't. That doesn't usually happen, so that wasn't what I went to look for first. I changed the needle, I rethreaded the machine, and then I finally said, "Well, let me see the bobbin case," and there it was, loose as a goose. Okay, so the all-purpose thread with these fabrics that, and you saw them in the newsletter a couple weeks ago. They're on the website under viscose and linen, but they got these really nice bold prints. And what I like about the nice bold prints is they make the statement. You don't need a lot of fancy seaming or special design lines or a fancy collar or cuff. The fabric is the show, and all you do is trim it up a little. And you could make two or three of these things in one day, even different length, different heights, or I mean different lengths. Um, I use an open toe foot. You've seen me sew, you know what kind of foot I use. I use that almost exclusively. I don't need another kind of foot for what I do. So that's the all-purpose thread, 1112 Microtex or Chrome Schmetz needle is what I prefer. All right, so now let's talk about the tunic here. And this tunic, you could seam it differently than I did, but I saw this in a catalog, or not exactly this, but something very similar. And I said, oh boy, that is the ticket. It's a big, beautiful fabric that makes the statement. And all they did was trim up a few areas with the serger. So I want to show you what that looks like up close. So here is a great example of what it looked like to serge those seams. So a couple there for you to kind of close in on. So I took my kimono sleeve pattern, and when you create a kimono sleeve sloper or pattern, you're eliminating the darks by ignoring them. But the only reason you can ignore them is because of the type of sleeve that you're putting into it. Just trust me on that because that's a little complicated. But so you have a front and a back, and I'm going to cut them on the fold. However, I need to add a quarter of an inch down the front and a quarter of an inch down the back because I'm going to do that serger decoration at about a quarter of an inch. So I know this fits me if I put this line on the fold, but I want a quarter inch serging down the front. So I just added that. Now, reason I want this on the fold is because, and it depends on your serger, but if you want to do the serger technique on it, it works so much nicer on a fold than it does two raw edges. Because when you have two raw edges, you've got some fraying from the edges, some kind of fringe and stuff, and it might just kind of poke through your serging. But the center front and the center back, that's not going to happen because it's on the fold and I'm not cutting anything. I'm just covering that edge with that nice satin stitch. So let me show you where that all takes place. So we're going to serge down the front and the center front and center back first thing. But it's all one piece to start with. I added pockets and I thought I just threw my pocket on kind of crooked just because it makes it more casual, kind of a fun look. And I think this one, I put this one on crooked too. I put one on here too. I just have to have a pocket, at least one pocket. And All right. So we serge down there and we put our pocket on. And no need to match the print because we're putting it on kind of casual. You know, I normally match the print, but in this case, I kind of cut out for this one of the flowers motifs so that it makes it interesting and it doesn't look mismatched. All right, so then we're going to sew the shoulder seams, and the shoulder seams come to right here because they're the kimono sleeve. So we're going to serge those together. Then for the sleeves, I cut and I wrote it right here on my kimono because I don't need a pattern for the sleeves. I just need two rectangles, 15.5 inches wide by the length that I want my sleeve to be, plus a 1 inch hem. So maybe next time I make the sleeve shorter, or maybe I make it longer. So it just leaves me a wide open, but I know to sew it onto here, the stitching line on here is 15.5. So my rectangle has to start with 15.5. And then again, the length is up to you. And if you don't know, then you just make it longer than you think you need it, but make it a couple inches longer. And then when you get to the point of putting the sleeve on, try it on. And if it's 4 inches too long, you cut 3 inches off and hem it 1 inch. So a lot of times that's the way to do it because you're not getting an exact measurement on that sleeve length because of that kimono sleeve. But once you've figured it out, make a note on your pattern so it's there for you next time. I use too, I wanted to tell you that I use Superior thread. What was the name of that thread? Brenda, they're right there in that white thing. Yeah, the purple big ones, the big ones. Yeah. What does it say?
Magnifico.
Magnifico, that's the one. And of course, I had to really shorten everything up. And I mean, I was on almost a zero to get that serging that nice. And I had to do a lot of samples. So I probably did 6, 8, maybe even 10 between the two different fabrics because they're slightly different. This one is rayon and nylon, and I believe this one is rayon and linen. So they take the stitching a little bit differently, but by all means, you want to get it right here before you go and try and put it on your finished garment because this is where the work is. Then it's a joy to throw your top together because there's only like 3 or 4 seams and some hem, and you got a really cute statement top. Be great to wear that to a family reunion this summer. So, or a casual wedding with some heels and a dress slack. So you can dress these up, dress them down, and they're fast to make. Now, before anybody asks, I'll tell you that how to change your any sloper into a kimono sleeve is in the pattern making book, Pattern Making Made Easy. And if you have that book, look for page 262 and 263. And it will give you step by step. You see, this would be our darted sloper bodice. And that's what we're going to start with, but then you can see what we're going to do. You have a few directions over here on how to create this. We've changed our shoulder slope drastically, but this is how we get away with not having a dart, is this kimono sleeve. And then you decide how long you want your kimono to come down. Mine, it didn't go out very far. Okay, so, and if you do not have the book, we've made an excerpt from the book available to you, I think for $5, and that is on the fitting page and on the book page on the website. So if you have any questions about that, sing them out. But that's where you'll find that. But it's just that easy. You take your sloper, you make a kimono sleeve out of it, add a rectangle for the sleeves. That's all there is to making that pattern. I think this would be a great pattern for your first pattern from a sloper because there's so little detail and so few changes that you have to make, but yet you get an entirely different looking garment because here we go. This is the same, made from the same pattern. They couldn't be more different, right? This is real sporty, and this is more casual, but could be dressy, more like summer party wear. But anyway, that is my fast and fun serger top. If you don't want to serge, you don't need to even have a seam down the front or the back. And you just sew your shoulder seams and your sleeves to your top the traditional way. And so you'd have the same silhouette, but a little different look. And I like the look of the serging because it kind of gives a little more interest without cutting up all the large print. Because when you get a large print, you don't want to have a lot of pieces. The first thing you say when you get a large print, I'm looking for something that doesn't have a yoke, doesn't have any princess lines, doesn't have any extra little detail to it because that all gets lost in a large print. I forgot to tell you one more thing. You got to have facings. So facing are very simple to make. You make them right from the pattern. In this case, their neckline. So the pattern goes on the fold. Now this is the fold that we take this 1/4 inch out. So we don't want the facing to be that wide. So we start with our original, is it? Yeah. We start with our original fold line and we draw down here. I think this is about 2.5 inches. Let's see. Throw me that ruler when you get a chance. But I think I usually do them around 2.5 to 2.25. Um, yep, 2.5. And so you're just going to measure from the neckline 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, and then connect and then trace it out, and that's your facing. And you do the same thing with the front. Just remember, if you're going to do one exactly like mine, where you're going to serge out this 1/4 inch, make sure that your facing starts at that original fold line, not this fold line. Yeah. Okay. I have some questions. Yes. Questions.
Um, oh, Joni says she bought some rayon from a high quality fabric store, rayon linen and rayon cotton blends, and they wrinkle, and the wrinkles are hard to press out. Any suggestions?
Okay, so Joni's telling us that she bought from a high-end fabric store or a good quality fabric store, and she bought some fabrics with a linen, no, rayon linen
and rayon cotton
and rayon
blends.
cotton, and they wrinkled like crazy, and she had a hard time pressing the wrinkles out. I would have to see that fabric to understand why that happened because this is rayon linen, the orange and white one, and that's rayon nylon, which is the black one. That black one will never wrinkle. It's it's just not a fabric that could wrinkle easily. Plus, it has a crinkle to it, so it's already got a crinkle to it. So it already looks. It's supposed to look like it's not ironed, if you know what I mean. I don't know if they can see that up close or not, Brenda. But our solid rayon nylons, the red, the pink, and the lime green, they've got that crinkle to them too. So there's never an issue of ironing them. But as far as getting hard creases in them, no. That orange top has been like this for a long time, and I actually wore it the other day, and there's no creases in it. Now, if you wear it on an airplane for 6 hours and you're all scrunched up in your seat with your seatbelt on, you might get some wrinkles. But nothing to what Joni experienced with the other fabrics that she purchased. But I don't know where those fabrics came from. I know that you felt it was a high end store and you probably paid a good price for it, but it doesn't guarantee. that it was worth the price you pay for it. And so that's all I can say without knowing. And maybe they missed some of the fiber content, but the one with the cotton in it, that's going to definitely wrinkle far more than the one with the rayon.
Marcy says, do you have the threads poking out on the sleeves and the serge seam?
I not that you catch by the naked eye. So I'll say what Sue Hausman used to say. I think she said, if you can't see it on a galloping horse from 50 feet away, it doesn't matter, or something like that. Don't quote me. But if we got up close, well, do any of these show? Let's see. This was on a folder. So uh, on here, no, they're not really poking out, but I'll bring it over a little closer to the camera so you can see it.
Mm,
So let's say that if you were looking at this, here's one little pokey right here, and there's a couple along the back edge. How well do you think you can see that, Vern?
pretty good.
But because I made it, I see every single one of those things. If I went in the store and I tried this on and I liked it, I just buy it and I would never know if it had those little pokies. The other thing that you can do, if it's egregious, or if you're an A-type personality and it'll make you nuts, Sharpies are excellent for disguising anything like that. Just take a little one, don't draw all over it, just dab, dab until that white spot disappears. But I didn't feel like I had enough that it made any difference to me. When I finally was able to get that serging so tight and close together, it certainly didn't cause a problem. The other thing, folks, I did was I did do a straight stitch down next to the serging. And I did that for security because I don't know about you, but I have serged a few things where the fabric pulled right apart at the serging because this is not a seam, it's just a zigzag over the edge. So just for security and better construction, I stitched that right down close to it. So it was turned like this, and then I stitched that. So it took out the rest of that 1/4 inch, and it doesn't really show, but it definitely added some more security. Okay. Any other questions? I hope that answered Joni. Is that Joni?
Oh, that
No,
was Marcy.
Marcy.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
There's a really pretty blue that's got big bold print like that too.
let's see. Oh, I think there's a lot of questions I missed here.
Brenda's reading the questions.
Pam Clark just says that her pattern making made easy book is about worn out, but she uses it all the time.
So Pam Clark is saying how worn out her book is getting. Well, Pam, right back at you, girl. Look at this. I don't even have a back cover anymore. I keep meaning to fix it, but I'm lucky enough to have more than one. But they're too expensive for everybody to have more than one. So, yeah, they get used a lot. And once you do one or two little things, like once you did something like this, you're feeling power. And after a couple, things start to click because you've been sewing for a long time, most of you. You know how to put the pieces together, follow the directions. So you got all that down.
Okay. Linda said she needs to make a new sloper as she's changed sizes. Where can I find the video making a sloper?
So Linda says she needs to make a new sloper because she's changed sizes. So Linda would like to know where she could find a video on that. So you can find a video on making slopers in the Stop the Insanity series, which is on YouTube in the playlist. And also in the knit fit series, depending on whether you want woven or knit. But there's a woven bodice series, there's the Stop the Insanity series, and then there's a knit fit series. The knit fit has 3 videos. I don't know about the others. So you have to, they were made a little bit longer ago. I don't have complete recall, but they're all there for you to use at any time you like. And if you watch it at least a couple of times and something's just not clicking, write me and say, Janet, and this lesson at this place, I don't understand what you meant by that, or I don't know how to do that. Whatever your question might be.
Patricia is asking any tips for how to do an extended shoulder if you have a large bust dart to work around. Not sure what that
Okay,
means.
so the question is any tips on making a longer shoulder because you have a bigger bust dart to work around? So what I'm imagining is that she has a large bust but not such wide shoulders. So when you see a pattern like that, what you see is the shoulders are in here, but the arm size way out here, and you're not used to seeing that. But if that's your body, that's the way it should be. So the funny thing is when we take people, the most we've done is pants. We did a lot of pant classes in the past, and when people would get they're following the directions. It's one step at a time, and pretty soon they got this pant pattern looks similar to a pant pattern, except for they've never seen one where the crotch seam goes way out at an angle, or they never saw one where it didn't have any darts at the seam because all you've ever seen for pant patterns is those generic pant patterns that fit the dress forms. They fit the 5'6", 26-year old who has an hourglass figure. But you aren't that person. So your pattern's going to look a lot different. So if I've got not that wide of shoulders, but I have a large bust, and mine does look like that. That shoulder is in narrow, and those sides come out further. So I'm not sure if that's what your issue was, but you should make your shoulders the length they need to be, and make your dart the size it needs to be, and everything should be fine.
So the question is, so the shoulder seams and arm seams are serged wrong sides together to get the serge seam on the outside? Question mark. 3 or 4 thread serger.
Okay, so we got a couple questions about the serge seams on the tops. And they were very good questions, by the way. So the first one was
Um,
they're sewn wrong sides
yeah,
together. That is correct. The front and the back I just have on the fold, but you fold it wrong side together. And then you put the shoulder seams wrong side together and the sleeve in wrong sides together. And let me tell you, more than once, I started putting it together right sides together because that's what we normally do. So make sure you keep an eye on yourself, or the next thing you know, you'll have it all put together, not the way you wanted it. And then it was 3 threads serging. I have the first edition of the Ovation by Baby Lock, if that means anything. I know not all sergers are going to be able to give you that kind of a look. That's why you take some scraps and you try it.
and Sherry is asking if you used a 4 thread serger, could you eliminate stitching the seam down the front or stitching?
Well, Sherry's asking if you use the 4 thread, could you eliminate doing that straight stitch down? Yes, I would try some samples because I'm not sure that serging with that extra stitch will look the same. I'd want to see what it's going to look like. That's up to you. You're the designer at this point. And if you do a sample and you say, "Oh, that looks perfect. I love that." Well, then put it on there. But if you look at it and you go, I just don't like that extra thread over there, then don't do it that way. But that's why I keep saying sample, sample, sample. Keep making samples before you do it on your actual garment.
Melanie would like to know if you enlarge the neckline so it goes over your head when you put it on.
I did. Melanie is asking, did I enlarge the neckline so I can just pop it over my head? Well, yes, I did. And the first one I did was too wide. My bra straps were showing. I did more of like a boat neck. I don't know why, because I don't like boat necks on me anyway. Um, So I took that back off and I actually set the muslin or the paper pattern, I don't remember which, on my shoulders and marked where my bra strap was. And then I made a little more of a curve down here to create a larger neckline so that my bra straps didn't show. So that's what I did, and I tested it before I finished making the pattern. And you always got to remember you got a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the neckline, so it's going to be a actually it sounds like it will be just a little bit bigger, but it'll be a lot bigger because it's a 1/4 inch all the way around. So it gets quite a bit bigger just by creating a 1/4 inch more. So be careful of that, or you could get your neckline too big.
Arlene would like to know if you could bring the black top a little closer to the camera. I'm not sure what.
Ask her what specifically she'd like to see.
Maybe she's going to respond. Arlene.
Okay.
Okay, let me. Oops, sorry. Reading questions.
This stuff is so light. And again, this is the kind you could roll up and put in your suitcase. It's so light and airy. And that's the other thing I like about this top. For women who don't want to show their upper arms after a certain age or don't feel as confident, this is lightweight enough and that you can wear it in the summertime, wear it to whatever family reunion. You can go into a restaurant, you won't be freezing because your arms are covered, but they're not overheated because it's just very lightweight. This stuff is very lightweight.
Let's see if she wrote. Honey would like to know. She sent us a picture of a dress. Um,
While you
short.
do, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Uh, keeps jumping.
This has an asymmetrical hem, but you can make it straight across. So there's another option. You can make 2 or 3 of these and do a different hemline, a different length, and they just whip up so fast, especially after the first one. You know exactly what you want to do. And if you're going to put a facing on this or anything, and you haven't watched my video that is 5 minutes, I think is all it is, on understitching, please do so. It's in YouTube, and it's in the tips and techniques. Look for tips and techniques in the playlist, and you'll find understitching. You will be thrilled because if you can see those necklines, how nice they lay, and how you don't see the facing, and you will never see the facing because the understitching is done precisely. So many people do understitching and they do it counterproductive. So that's a really good tip for any sewing. Okay, Brenda, do you have more?
Penny, I don't know if you remember this. Penny sent us a picture of a dress, a red
Yes,
dress.
it's a gorgeous
Yeah,
dress.
and she says, I want to turn a short shirt into a dress.
Uh-huh.
I had sent you a picture a few days ago. How do I determine how wide to make it go from shirt size to wider towards the bottom?
Well, I can only now, Penny, do you have the book? I can only tell you that what you're going to do is you want it wide at the bottom. It's a really pretty shirt dress. It's not a shirt waist, it's a shirt dress. I think there's one, it's very
Yeah.
similar to this.
Yes.
Very similar to this, but it's wider than this one at the bottom. You're going to slice up your pattern and spread it. Because when you slice it here, straight up to here, and you spread it, you're not enlarging anything up here, but you're enlarging things down here in the right manner. And if you've got the book, it'll tell you. Because you don't want to just slice it any old place. You want to slice it uh, every 4 inches apart or 6 inches apart or 2 inches apart, depending on what you're doing, so that it's symmetrical, so that the extra fullness is distributed evenly. What did we do that with? I did that on a YouTube when we did the swing top. And I think
Mm,
that's a knit. So it'd be in the knit fits, not the knit fit series, but in one of the might be Stop the Insanity, the knit part. I'm not sure. We've been doing this for too long. I can't remember everything. I mean, we started these
yeah.
in like 2017 or sooner. So after you get 8 or 9 years, you kind of get you lose a little bit of it. That's all.
That's good for questions.
Okay. So unless there are any other questions, we're going to get ready to wrap this all up. But I will take any questions on pattern making, sloper making, muslin, anything that's occurred to you when we talked today, and you said, "Oh, I wonder how or what."
Mary would like to know, is there a recommended minimum amount of walking ease for a shirt dress?
No, there's not. Okay, so the question was, is there a minimal amount of ease for walking ease for a shirt dress? Yes, but that's up to you. Because I see women, it's a style even. They wear them to weddings and things, and they're knit, but they're skin tight and they go below the knee. So you gotta walk like this. And if you don't mind walking like that because you look so darn good in the knit, I guess that's okay. But you want to be able to walk. And the best way to determine that is to do a test muslin. But I'll tell you, hey, Brenda, throw me that pink tape measure. Down and dirty, I take the tape measure and make a circle and I put my legs through it and I say, okay, well, nope, that's not enough. And maybe I get to 50 or 60 inches and I'm okay, I can walk in that. So that's up to you. And you may want, some people want it really full because they want it to be dramatic. But if you want just the minimal amount, I would take the shirt pattern and measure the circumference of that hem and see how that goes around your lower part of your thighs. And if you can walk, and then uh, proceed accordingly.
That's it.
The other thing you can do if you want it really snug is to put side vents or kick pleat in. And then you can have a straighter look, but still be able to walk in. But that was a very good question. Thank you. And I think that's the end of our questions, but it's not the end of the answers. So be sure to send me an email at islandersewing@comcast.net. If you forget that or you don't have something to write it down, it's at the bottom of the homepage on the website. If you just send us an email, we'll be happy to answer your questions about your sloper or about your serger top or whatever else. But I'm hoping if you make a serger top and even, change it to your aesthetic, to your style. But if you were inspired by this, send us a picture. We want you to inspire the rest of the group here. So it'd be really fun to see what you do with it. But be sure to take a look at those large prints because I just really fell in love with them. They're all from Brazil. And if you can see the blue one, it's right there by your knees. It's a large print. It's got that bright royal blue in it.
Is it this one?
No, that's that new. Well, that's pretty. That's that new. You can hand me that one. I'll show them that one because this is
Keep looking.
luscious. So this is a twill. We got two pieces. The other one's multicolored geometrics. But this, and it feels so good. We were kind of petting it today. But take a look at that. Isn't that pretty? And it looks so spring, summer. You,
I'm not seeing it.
she's looking, but she hasn't found it.
Oh, I see it.
I hear it. I hear it coming. Anyway, take a look at these. These are really nice. There's only two twills, but they're just luscious. Oh, there it is. Now this, I think, I didn't have. I had to make my sample according to the serger thread I had in stock, or I would have made this one. I love that orange. I don't have any blue, but this is just wonderful. To really make a great statement. Like I said, caftans are back in. especially for wearing at the pool or the beach. You, a long caftan out of something like this would be make quite a statement. So I think that's very pretty. Okay, I think are we done? Yeah. All right. So just like I said, if you make something similar, you've been inspired by this, let us know. Send us a picture. We'd love to share it. And we're available by internet. And we'll see you again in June, hopefully the first Tuesday of June. And for those of you I'll see tomorrow at the Wired for Style class. See you then. Bye, everyone, from Islander Sewing Systems. I'm Janet Prey with Brenda Rogerson, and we just love doing this Facebook Live program, and we're glad that you join us. Have a nice week. Bye bye now.